My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the suffocating silence of the room. It was the smell that hit me first, acrid and metallic, clinging to the air like a chilling premonition. Then the glint of steel. A knife. Not just any knife, but the ornate silver letter opener Helen kept on her mahogany desk, the one she'd inherited from her distinguished lineage, polished to a menacing sheen. It lay there, gleaming wickedly, precisely centered on my pillow, and next to it, a single perfect white rose, its pristine petals just beginning to brown at the edges, a subtle decay mirroring the rot that had silently taken root in my marriage. My breath hitched, caught somewhere between my throat and my lungs. This wasn't a warning. This was a statement, a declaration of war, etched in silver and wilting white. And I, Emily, 32 years old and utterly naive, was just beginning to realize the battlefield wasn't some distant skirmish, but the very confines of my own home, and the enemy wore the perfectly sculpted face of my husband's mother. The cold dread that slithered down my spine wasn't just fear. It was the sickening certainty that my entire life, the one I had meticulously built with Alex, the one I believed was founded on love and trust, was about to unravel in a way I couldn't possibly comprehend. This wasn't a marriage. It was a meticulously crafted prison, and the keys had just been handed to the woman who despised me, the woman who was slowly, deliberately poisoning everything I touched, everything I loved. I'm Emily, 32, and if you'd told me a few years ago that my seemingly idyllic life, built on the solid ground of what appeared to be true love, would become a stage for psychological warfare, I would have laughed. I would have scoffed, perhaps even pitied the person who dared suggest such a melodrama. Alex. My husband. The man who looked like he'd stepped straight out of a glossy magazine cover. Tall, impeccably dressed, with a smile that could disarm armies and a career as a successful financier that screamed stability. He came from a family steeped in old money and even older unspoken expectations. The kind of lineage that subtly hints at inherited privilege. He was the kind of man who made heads turn in any room he entered, and for a glorious blinding period, I was the woman on his arm, basking in the glow of his supposed perfection, convinced I had found my forever. But beneath that polished, enviable surface, a different, far more sinister drama was brewing, one orchestrated with a chilling precision by the woman who had given him life, Helen, his mother. She moved in right after we got married, citing vague, lingering health concerns. Just for a little while, dear, she'd coo her voice a soothing balm that masked a steel core. Her eyes, however, held a peculiar, almost predatory glint that I completely missed at the time, too swept up in the whirlwind of newlywed bliss and the polite conventions of hosting family. What began as seemingly benevolent care soon morphed into a suffocating embrace, a constant, insidious presence that chipped away at my autonomy. She was everywhere, her shadow, stretching across every corner of our home, her presence a constant, low-frequency hum of disapproval. My choices in decor were subtly critiqued, a dismissive flick of the wrist at the modern art I cherished. My dinner parties, which I poured my heart into, were deemed unsuitable for Alex's esteemed colleagues, with hints that I simply lacked the finesse required for their sophisticated palates. My very presence in her son's home felt like an affront she tolerated rather than welcomed. Every suggestion she offered was a veiled command, a thinly disguised order wrapped in polite language. Every compliment was a backhanded insult delivered with a smile that twisted my stomach and left a bitter taste in my mouth. That dress is brave, dear, so modern. Or, you cook quite energetically. Alex prefers a lighter touch. It was like living under a microscope, constantly scrutinized, constantly found, wanting, constantly performing for an audience that had already judged me and found me lacking. My confidence, once a sturdy oak, began to wither under her relentless, subtle assault, stripped bare by 1,000 paper cuts of judgment and control. The vibrant woman Alex had once fallen for was slowly, systematically being erased. Then came Luna, a tiny, fluffy whirlwind of a puppy, all boundless energy and innocent adoration gifted by Helen to Alex for the family. At the time, it felt like a sweet gesture, a symbol of domestic bliss, a delightful addition to our nascent life together. I remember the joy in Alex's eyes, the way Luna immediately snuggled into his lap. I showered Luna with love, treating her like the innocent, pure creature she was, a beacon of uncomplicated joy in a house that was becoming increasingly complicated. But I see it now with a chilling clarity that makes my stomach churn. Luna wasn't a genuine gift of affection. She was a prop, an extension of Helen's possessiveness, a living, breathing pawn in a deeply manipulative game I didn't even know I was playing. And with Luna's arrival, the whispers intensified. Every spilled cup of coffee, every misplaced remote, every minor domestic mishap was met with Helen's clipped saccharine tone, her voice a chilling melody echoing through the house like a haunting, inescapable refrain. A good wife would have handled this better. It was never a question. It was always a judgment delivered with that same unsettling smile that promised warmth but delivered ice. At first, Alex defended me, his expressions a confused mix of discomfort and loyalty. He'd offer a weak, "Mom, it's fine," or a hesitant, "Emily tried her best." But the constant drip, drip, drip of Helen's disapproval, her relentless insinuation that I was simply not enough was corrosive. Insidiously, almost imperceptibly, his stance shifted. His shoulders stiffened when I reached for him, his hand no longer instinctively reaching for mine. His eyes, once full of adoration, began to hold a subtle judgment, a mirroring of his mother's critical gaze. The casual requests for me to try harder or be more understanding morphed into demands for sacrifice for me to prioritize their comfort, their expectations above my own well-being. My career, which I had worked so hard to build, became an inconvenience. My friends, my support system were subtly pushed away. My very sense of self began to erode under the relentless pressure to conform to their unspoken expectations, to become the silent, obedient, endlessly accommodating good wife they so desperately wanted. The once bright vibrancy of our home grew dim, replaced by an oppressive silence, punctuated only by Helen's passive-aggressive pronouncements and Alex's increasingly cold, distant demands. I was shrinking, becoming a ghost in my own life, desperately trying to contort myself into a shape that would finally earn their approval, all while feeling the last vestiges of my spirit slipping away like sand through clenched fingers. Every argument felt like a battle, fought on a battlefield of shifting sands, always losing, always blamed, always made to feel inadequate. The love we once shared withered under the constant emotional abuse replaced by a suffocating emptiness, a hollow ache that settled deep in my bones. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a beautiful, suffocating cage. The day Luna vanished felt like the world had gone grayscale drained of all color and hope. One ordinary morning, the house felt eerily empty, the usual joyful scramble of Luna greeting us for breakfast absent. Panic bloomed in my chest, a cold, blossoming dread. We searched everywhere, calling her name until our throats were raw, until my voice cracked with despair. Every closet, every nook, every corner of the house, empty. And just like that, the security cameras, those silent guardians of our home, malfunctioned. A convenient blackout, a perfect blank space where Luna should have been, where any trace of her disappearance might have been recorded. The police came, their faces etched with professional sympathy, their questions polite but fruitless. There were no leads, no paw prints, to follow nothing but the echoing emptiness of a space where a living, breathing creature should have been. The silence in the house after they left was deafening, filled only with the crushing weight of my own grief and Alex's chilling accusatory words. You couldn't even take care of the only thing my mom loved. The accusation hit me like a physical blow, a vicious punch to the gut that left me gasping for air. It was a fresh wound, a gaping hole where my self-worth used to be a gaping wound that bled guilt and shame. I was a mess, racked with guilt, convinced I had failed, tormented by agonizing images of Luna lost and scared alone in the vastness of the city. I replayed every moment, every interaction, searching for an answer, a reason, a sign of what I had done wrong. Had I left the gate open? Had I not been careful enough during our walks? The self-blame was a relentless tormentor chipping away at my sanity. But the truth, when it finally struck, was far more insidious, more cruel, more calculated than my self-blame could ever conjure. It was the final, perfectly executed move in their cruel game, a justification, a perfect, undeniable excuse for the inevitable. They had planned it all, the divorce. Alex's affair, not just a casual fling, but a deliberate strategic partnership with a young woman Helen absolutely adored, a woman who no doubt embodied every single trait of the good wife I could never be, subservient, eager to please, and utterly unthreatening. Luna's disappearance wasn't an accident. It was a meticulously orchestrated act, the final nail in the coffin of a marriage they had already decided to bury a convenient scapegoat for their calculated betrayal. The realization left me breathless, staring at the shattered fragments of my life, seeing the grotesque tapestry of deceit woven by the two people I had trusted most in the world. It was a betrayal so profound, it stripped me bare, leaving me raw and exposed. The day before the final court hearing, the weight of everything was suffocating, a physical burden pressing down on my chest. I felt like I was walking through thick mud each step, an effort my mind, a chaotic storm of anger, grief, and a chilling sense of emptiness. I walked aimlessly, needing to breathe to escape the confines of the house that felt less like a home and more like a tomb for my dreams, for my love, for my very self. And then I saw him, an old man, his face weathered by time and etched with kindness, walking a dog in the park. My breath hitched, caught in my throat. It couldn't be, but as I drew closer, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, the distinctive white patch on her chest, the way her tail curled just so the familiar bounce in her step. It was Luna, my Luna. A wave of raw, unadulterated emotion washed over me, a surge of joy and relief so powerful it brought me to my knees on the damp grass. Tears streamed down my face, hot and unchecked, as I scooped her into my arms, burying my face in her familiar, comforting fur, sobbing uncontrollably. Luna, sensing my distress, licked away my tears, her warm tongue a tiny comfort in the storm of my emotions. The old man, startled by my sudden collapse, but gentle, explained. He'd found her wandering lost and afraid months ago, a tiny trembling ball of fur. He'd taken her, in a lonely soul finding solace in another, a quiet companionship born of shared solitude. He spoke of her sweet nature, her playful antics, how she'd become his cherished companion, a bright spot in his solitary existence, his little shadow. As he spoke, his kind, gentle eyes, mirroring my own overwhelming emotion, a horrifying realization dawned on me, chilling me to the bone. Every loss, every moment of agonizing pain, every shred of self-doubt I had endured, every single piece of my unraveling life, it wasn't random. It was meticulously orchestrated. Luna hadn't wandered off. She had been given away, discarded, abandoned, just like me. The perfect setup, the perfect cruel ending to their carefully constructed charade, a final brutal blow designed to leave me utterly broken and compliant. Alex and Helen hadn't just broken my heart. They had systematically dismantled my life piece by agonizing piece for their own selfish desires, their own twisted sense of order. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me breathless, reeling from the sheer depth of their cruelty and manipulation. My entire perception of my marriage of Alex of Helen twisted into a grotesque, unrecognizable caricature, a nightmare dressed in cashmere and designer suits. The years I had spent, the love I had given, the sacrifices I had made, all for nothing, all for a lie. Luna licked my face again, her tail wagging a silent question, her eyes full of the uncomplicated love only a dog can offer. The urge to take her to reclaim this one piece of my shattered life was overwhelming. To march into court tomorrow, Luna in my arms, and expose them for the monsters they truly were, to shout from the rooftops what they had done to prove their deceit, to reclaim what was mine. It was a fight, a desperate struggle within myself, a primal scream for justice. But what would it achieve? More pain? More bitterness? More entanglement in a web of deceit that had already consumed so much of me, leaving me hollowed out and exhausted? Would it truly bring me peace, or just prolong the agony? I looked at the old man, his face radiating a quiet, unassuming love for this little dog. He had given Luna a home, a true home, a haven of genuine affection when I couldn't. He deserved her. Luna deserved him. It was a choice that transcended justice, a choice for peace, for sanity, for a future unburdened by their poison. For both of us. My voice, though thick with unshed tears, was firm, resolute. "She loves you, not," I whispered, burying my face in Luna's warm fur. One last time, inhaling her comforting scent, trying to memorize the feel of her in my arms. "She belongs with you." I handed her back the warmth of her small body, lingering on my hands, a bittersweet ghost of what was a painful farewell to a dream that was never truly mine. It was a release, a painful yet profound act of surrender, a deliberate step away from the emotional battlefield. I chose peace over vengeance, freedom over entanglement. And in that moment, for the very first time in years, I felt a lightness, a sense of rightness, a quiet certainty that no court ruling, no act of retribution could ever provide. The path forward, though unseen, felt clear, uncluttered by the debris of their manipulations. The divorce papers are finalized, the signatures, the date, the cold, impersonal legal jargon. It's done. The pen scratched across the page, a final definitive sound echoing the tearing of a chapter. The city once, a vibrant backdrop to my life, now feels like a cage of memories. Each street corner, each cafe, each park bench holding a ghost of a life that was a meticulously constructed lie. Every brick, every building, every face seemed to whisper of betrayal of hidden currents beneath placid surfaces. I'm leaving. Going somewhere new, somewhere the air doesn't taste of betrayal, somewhere the streets don't echo with the ghosts of what used to be, somewhere the past can finally lose its suffocating grip. This isn't a retreat. It's a strategic advance, a deliberate act of self-preservation, a conscious choice to heal and rebuild. I'm packing memories, not just belongings. The good ones fleeting though they may have been, the hard-won lessons, learned the strength forged in the crucible of despair. I'm leaving behind the bitterness, the corrosive pain, the constant whisper of not good enough that Helen had so expertly woven into the fabric of my self-perception. I'm leaving behind the shadow of Alex's distant eyes and Helen's poisonous smile. For the first time in years, the crushing weight has lifted. The silence isn't oppressive anymore. It's vast, expansive, brimming with the raw, exhilarating promise of what's next, a canvas waiting for new strokes. I am free, truly free. The freedom isn't just from Alex or Helen. It's from the suffocating version of myself I became under their insidious control. It's the freedom to breathe, to choose to simply be without judgment, without manipulation, without the constant need to prove my worth. To pick up the pieces, not to frantically reassemble the broken whole that once was, but to carefully, thoughtfully create something entirely new, entirely mine. The road ahead is uncertain, painted with the hues of new beginnings and untold possibilities, a blank map waiting to be drawn. But for the very first time, I am holding the pen tracing my own path. The future, once a source of dread, now feels like an open horizon filled with the quiet hope of rediscovery. Hey everyone, Emily here. So that's my story. It's messy, it's painful, and it's still very much a process. Sometimes letting go isn't about giving up. It's about making space for something new, something real, something that truly serves you, even if it feels like tearing off a part of yourself. It's about finding freedom in the wreckage, about understanding that some doors need to be permanently closed for new, better ones to open. If you've ever been through a toxic relationship, felt controlled, or trapped in a situation that slowly, relentlessly eroded your spirit, I see you. Your story matters. What's one unexpected lesson you learned from walking away from something that was holding you back? How did you begin to reclaim your freedom, step by painful step? Share your insights and experiences in the comments below. Let's create a space for healing, for shared strength, and for the quiet courage it takes to rebuild. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Midnight on Reddit for more stories like mine, and let's keep this conversation going. Your journey might be the light someone else needs.